you the framework or the caveat of the information I'm going to provide you today. As many of you know, Ohio Department of Health is making its rounds throughout the state. The next visit to the Northeast is actually on Monday in Summit County. So if you don't feel like you're getting enough here, you can go up Monday to Summit County Health Department and hear more and sit there for 6 hours, I believe it is, to hear what they have to say. Now, my intention was, Ohio Department of Health promised they would put out a video of all the content that we want to discuss today, and I was going to take that video and hack it down to the meat and potatoes for you guys. The video never came out. So I didn't have that to review to give you guys and convey that information to you. But what I did have is Ohio Department of Health's all their PowerPoints, and certainly all the stuff that has been relayed to us over the last several months. So I think most of what I have to give you today is going to, well, should be accurate and should get you going in the right direction. There are probably some little pieces that I really can't answer, and quite frankly, I'm not sure if Ohio Department of Health can fully answer as some of this stuff develops. But I want to make sure you have a caveat of what I'm going to give you today. So a few things we need to cover. I have to, by law, whenever we have new sewage fees come up, I have to have a public hearing. So part of this, hopefully not more than the first 2 minutes, is going to be me showing you what the fees are going to be for the next year. If there's any questions, I'll answer those, but I have to do that by law, so I want to make sure we take care of that. We're going to talk briefly about spray irrigation again. You know, we talked a little bit about that last time. We just want to give you an update on that first system that's going in right now, and you guys can see what it looks like. It's still not even operational yet. I just heard the pumps are going in tomorrow, so probably by Monday we'll see this thing actually operating. Then lastly, we're going to cover the new sewage rules, and I've tried to keep this to how it's going to affect you guys more on a day-to-day basis. You know, whether it be your registration, what types of systems you put in, how you design. I try to keep it right to that point. And there's much more in there that I won't talk about. And then, you know, you guys will have to read up or on your own or go visit Summit County. Before I get into it any further, I do want to tell you about some staff changes we've made. Many of you know that Jason Smith, who reviewed our property transfer inspections, has left to go to USGS, and now Todd Ascani has taken over those responsibilities with property transfer inspection. We're kind of in an interim where we're covering his old area until our new person, Ashley Takish, just joined us Monday. So she is in training right now. And I'm sure probably at around December you guys will see her and she'll be out on her own. Take it easy on her. And I told her,
you got it.
Especially you, Fred.
Yeah, I knew it was coming before we started it.
I tell all my sanitarians this, particularly the new ones, there's nothing that's life and death that we do. And if she comes across a situation that needs an answer, you know, she certainly can come to one of us and get an answer and get back to you. So we encourage her to do that. All right, without anything further, we're going to get into the proposed fees here. I don't know how well you can read this, but I'm just going to point out all the fees are the same as they are currently, except the bold-faced ones. And the bold-faced ones didn't even exist before, so we had to adopt a few new fees. That's why we have to go through this process through the Board of Health, and I have to meet with you guys and via a public meeting and tell you about them. So item number 5 there, permit for gray water recycling systems. We didn't have such a thing, so we had to adopt a fee for that. I'm not sure how much that will even get used, but I do on an occasion talk with some more green-minded individuals, and they like the ideas of these things. At the end of the day, it'll probably cost them more to do all this stuff than it would if they just put a septic system in. But that exists. Small flow, so the top one is home sewage. This is small flow, same thing. We're doing the same thing there. Fee-wise, $500 in the permit. Then the last new fee we have is homeowner service provider registration. We're now, anybody who services their own system now, well, they have been registered, but there has not been a fee for that in the past. We're going to charge a fee for that. again, just to administer the cost of that program, we do spend a good amount of time with our homeowners who do this themselves. Some are very good at it, and I would trust that they can do an excellent job. Others, not so much. And others like to lie on the forms, so you have everywhere in between that we have to contend with. So that fee is to help with that. Are there any other questions or comments about any of the local fees?
Are they posted online?
They are posted. These aren't yet, Fred, but they will be soon because our old ones are on there. So they're the same, except for those three
Great water
exceptions.
assessment.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
No,
yep. Yes,
the state fee on the alteration permit, that's due.
I want to talk about that. Before I get to that, is there any
Sorry.
questions about the local fees? And just so you guys know, we adopt local fees, the Board of Health does, and the state adopts the state fee, and I have no control over that. When they change it, I got to add it in, and I have no control. So, is there any questions further about the local fees? Same as they were, with the three exceptions. The state fee, I want to point that out. The state fee on alteration, number 4 there, that didn't exist before. There wasn't a state fee on alterations. It is now $15. As the state's, that permit fee will go up, and we had nothing to do with that. A couple other things I want to point about the state fees is they are going to incrementally increase over the next 3 years. This year it's the same as what we were paying. In 2016 it's going to go up. I don't recall what it is, but it's going to go up. And then 17 it's going to go up again. So when you see fee, we're not anticipating a fee increase from the Board of Health, but when you see your permit fee go up a little bit each year, that's more than likely coming from the State Health Department, and I have no control, nor do I have to have a public hearing to tell you all about it. Because the state's done that. It's in the rules, so if you read the rules, you'll see what they're doing with that. And this is just the completion of those same list of fees. Nothing's changed there. In fact, most of these don't even pertain to you. With regard to the House Bill 110, that's our commercial sewage program, package plants that we look at. The operation and maintenance fees, some of those do pertain to you if you're a service provider, but all of those are still the same. All right, any questions about the fees? We can move on to better things. Okay. And I did want to bring up also, just for the sake that nobody didn't hear about it, if you recall from last meeting, if you were here, we have state rules, we're going to cover those, that have come out, and they have a section in there about operation and maintenance. And we are required as a Board of Health to adopt operation and maintenance regulations. They tell us you must do this. We already had some. We basically readopted those same regulations with some refinements, a little bit of clear language. Some of it was a little unclear. And that's what this is. I talked about this last time, but I'm going to give you just a handful of high points of what minor changes we did make. And if there's any questions, again, just so you know that it's happening, the last reading of this will be in December. It'll be effective concurrent with the state's rules in January 1st, 2015. So here are the few things. I'm just going to buzz through these if I can. We had to establish permit terms for operation permits. That's what they are. If you have a service contract, it's 5 years, 10 years on a non-service contract system. Service providers, second bullet here, must affix an audit sticker. We're already doing that, but now we've actually kind of codified that. You're already doing that by policy. Third bullet, homeowners, that's the $30 fee for the homeowner who does homeowner registration and service work. The last one really doesn't pertain to you at all, but we did put in writing the exception we've always had by policy that if, when we do addition evaluations, we don't want to look at the small stuff less than 120 square foot detached sheds and things like that. Anytime you get a zoning or building permit, septic gets reviewed to make sure that it's in compliance, you're not building over top of it. Conditions for postponing a property transfer inspection were added. We had that waiver form. We actually clarified that in our rules. Same policies and procedures before, just in writing now. We used to have 30 days, bullet number 2, to connect to a sanitary sewer. Once the property was sold, we made that 60 days just to be more practical. It just doesn't get done in 30 days. The last view there, a requirement for a system inspection when a property with an existing home is subdivided. That's really a regional planning rule, and we just kind of went right along with what they already are doing. And then lastly, we didn't want to negate anything that says, the Board of Health still has authority to abate public health nuisances. So as an example, what sometimes happens is we'll get a waiver form come in the door for this property's been vacant for X years. We just want to waive the inspection. Well, what we do is we go through our files and say if there's a nuisance on that property 2 years ago before the guy moved out, we're not waiving anything. You're going to fix it. So that's what that does. That kind of protects us to make sure we still have to do our job and complete a problem before the next guy moves in. So once again, final reading of these regulations December 10, and then effective date January 1st. And that should be 15. I apologize. January 1st, 15. Any questions about the revisions to our O&M regulations? All right, cool. All right, I'm going to have Courtney come up just for a few minutes and give you an update on the spray irrigation system we have going on.
And what everybody wants to see is, and this week would have been a great example of this. We want to see this thing spray at 9 degrees when it's been snowing and frosting, right? So that's what we all want to see. We don't have that yet, but let's take a look at what we do have. And Todd kind of went over the plan and the design of this at the last meeting. But we got a good distance here from the home aeration system, very large pump tank, pump line out here to their spray field. And that spray field is, even when seeing this plan before I was out there, I was surprised really just how small that spray field is. It just looks like, that it's kind of tiny for what you're doing, but it just, out there spraying, doing its thing. And I think the issue for this one is going to be the homeowner, and probably will be the issue for a lot of these spray irrigations is the homeowner going to respect the area that you have for spray irrigation? He's already talking about his four-wheelers and that sort of thing, and I know the installer, myself, Todd Paulus, have all kind of made comments to this gentleman of, we need to kind of respect this area. So that's always a little bit of the question mark here. The spray head design, well, Todd had showed you this before, air remittance valve on the side. This is kind of when the first initial phase of install. You could see the house way down over there. Pump line is quite lengthy to get up to this spray area. You can see that the smaller vegetation has been moved away. I'll show you another photo of where we have the stands in here and the heads. But the large trees, a little bit away from the head itself, have been removed. But large trees kind of in the middle, away from the initial spray, are all gone, but we do have some bigger ones there. Let's see if this little video here works here. Took a little video, just a little pan. The small little section here is just kind of our spray area. You can see that how it's wooded here. One thing you can't really see how sloped it is coming down into that spray irrigation area. Here's kind of the install of our pump line and then our heads. That's been wonderfully dyed purple so that everybody knows what those are. You can see the greens off the sides. They're the air remittance valves. The heads aren't on yet. We just have the stanchions up. And I don't think the heads are on yet, right? Okay. So that's kind of our area. Another close-up here. One of the things when this was being installed with that air remittance valve, there is a little section for gauge to see what our pressure is at that head. And so one of the things that we kind of thought about as we were out there is, got to think about where that goes. If we actually want to be there to take a look at this and shove a gauge onto the side, we probably should put that not in front of the spray head. So we kind of want to have that off to the side. So 3 out of 4 ain't bad. We got 3 out of 4. Tanks have all been installed. Pump tanks down here to the side. We got some another trash trap, and then our aeration system here. It was a pretty interesting install for the pump line. This nice little gully out middle of the property before you head up to the spray irrigation area. And then this is basically the finished spray zone. There's 4 heads here, white one up top there, one in between the trees, and one over here. So it's actually a pretty small area, pretty compact area. So you would think most people would be pretty respectful to that. It's not like we're taking over the majority of their property. This is just a small section into their woods that they'll be having spray there. Okay. Did you want to say anything, Tom?
Yeah, just 2 things on that. Just to remind you, when you're thinking spacing and location of these systems, it's approximately 8 square foot per gallon per day that you're going to need to reserve for this type of a system. Another thing that's been brought up during the course of this installation was the effluent quality. Let's say if the system malfunctions, electricity goes off, which happens particularly a lot in the country, and you have the system go off, and water's still kind of possibly migrating through that system, and it's water in, water out. What ends up in the pump tank? And what do we do about some of the debris and so forth that gets in the pump tank that we're eventually going to try to set up to the spray heads? That's a very legitimate concern. The special device approval the state adopted didn't even really talk about that, didn't touch on that. But the installer and the product supplier here has brought that concern up, and it's very legitimate. So something I think we need to think about more in the future is how do you protect those spray heads when we know electricity will go off on occasion. Remember too that these things will dose probably, in this case, I think this was a half-hour dose around 4 o'clock a.m. in the morning, and then kids around out playing in it and so forth. But anyway, it's a long dose, a little different from what you're accustomed to in a lot of other types of jobs. So is there any other questions about the spray system before we move on? Maybe someday we'll get you some video of the thing actually working.
Nah.
No, probably never.
Hey, Todd,
Yes.
can you take just a minute break so these guys can sit down? Because nobody's standing
Well,
long.
you guys, yeah, fine. There's chairs over there. Some of them prefer to stand. I don't know why.
So they heard from away.
Heck yeah.
What color you want? Green? Yeah, black.
I want green. I want to dye all those trees.
I can put a full gallon in there.
Huh?
You look like you're in. It's funny.
It would take care of it.
4 in the morning. So you can adjust for daylight savings time. Yep. If it's too, if you wait a 2,000 gallons, using too much water, you deserve it.
Agree. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I wish you luck across it.
I gotta stay up till 4 in the morning and see what's up.
Oh, you'll know.
All right, guys, all settled back in? I want to show you before yeah,
How much does a system like that cost, and what's the life expectancy on a system like that?
maybe someone here could tell us what that costs. I didn't price it, so
He's in the mid-20s.
mid-20s.
And then, I mean, there's sections of that system, the pump line's over 9 feet deep. Or
I
pushing
think
9
this
feet.
system was a little
This
more
thing's a
complex
nightmare.
too. Yeah, it was a more complex
And they went through
system.
bogs, and there's a bog between there.
I
And,
assume there was no other option, so.
Well, this particular property owner destroyed his system area with a dozer. And not only that, he had very shallow soils to restricting. He went in there and just destroyed it. But that was actually a blessing in disguise. Here's why. When he destroyed it and removed the trees, out bust a spring right in the middle of where that system was supposed to go that nobody knew about. And that thing would have just failed the next day with the way that spring was busting out of that hillside. So he really didn't have any other choices at that point. Longevity, most of the components are similar to an off-lot discharge aerator. You take care of it. Then you have the issues of the pump line, maintaining it, and then the spray heads. Spray heads are what, 40 bucks? Something like that? Spray head plugs or brakes, unscrew it, put another one in.
There is an experimental system that's been out at the farm for Ohio Department of Health, and OSU had an experimental system that went in at a farmhouse out there at their experimental station, and it's been in the ground now 8 or 9 years. Karen Mance will probably be the one to ask that question.
So Todd, then, as years pass for systems like
Put it
this,
up 2 foot off the ground.
do you foresee any nutrient testing around these spray irrigation areas, or? is
There's
it
nothing
kinda
there
low?
yet, Fred. We'll see. I'm never gonna say never. All right, I'm gonna try to use our extremely slow internet connection because I really want to show you guys something that you gotta know. Does everybody here, or just about everybody here, has some type of access to the internet, right? Because this is gonna be very helpful to you. Okay, I'm on Ohio Department of Health's website, and I just clicked on the S. And there's sewage treatment systems. That's where you want to go to find the information I'm going to show you here. Many of you probably have already been there for all sorts of various things, you know, approved pre-treat components, those types of things. But on here now is this, and this is what I want to point out to you. Information for installers, service providers, and haulers. And there's lots of other information you can get off of this website. But everything you need to know about next year's registration is here. And this is where you want to go to get it. For example, bonds. The bonds are not county bonds. Make sure you tell your bond company, do not submit that old county bond to the health department. We can't accept it. Continuation bonds, can't accept those either. It has to be this new state bond, which will be found on this website. In fact, here's the link, the bond form right there. I'm going to go a little more in detail later about contractor registration, but I want, before I forget, to tell you where you can get all this information. Ohio Department of Health, S for sewage, go here, installer and contractor information. The other thing that's going to be covered here is the state exam. Unfortunately, there's no grandfathering. Everybody who's probably in this room who's registered as a service provider, installer, or hauler will be retesting.
What the cost is this time?
Wayne County's already got.
Good question. Here's what I've heard so far. The test is offered in 3 different places, and I'll get into this a little later. OTCO, which would probably charge you.
Oh, yeah, they will.
Okay. So OTCO, there are local health departments proctoring the exam. You just go there on the date. Well, I haven't even time to think about it.
Carroll County, is Carroll County's gonna do it the 14th of December.
Okay. I think on here, let's see.
Wayne's doing it, Brad says.
Wayne's got it, Mahoning's got it, Columbiana's doing it. Various other places that you can go to take the exam at the local health department. There, the ODH ships out a stack of
I
tests.
still didn't know what the price was when I registered.
There's, to my knowledge, there is no test unless you go through OTCO.
I mean, cost, yeah.
Yeah, not to my knowledge. The last thing that I thought that would be most convenient for everybody here would be, there's a website called Ohio Train. We get our training off of this website. And you go there and you can log into the test. From what I've heard from Ohio Department of Health, because we asked this question, it's going to be free for the test. So you can take it at your home, wherever, and take it that way. So it's the only thing I'll say is Ohio Train can be a little cumbersome sometimes to get yourself registered and logged in, but once you are, you can take that test there. I'm hopeful that that information will show up soon on this page. That's why I'm showing you this, because soon it'll be there and you can, if you choose to take it at home, you can just go there and do the business. Or you can go to one of these local health departments, or you could use OTCO if you want to pay to do that. Is there any questions about this information? Yeah.
Is there a reference material to read before you take that test?
It's open book, they said, and it's 75 questions, and it tells you where to go.
There's 2 people.
To find
I'm
the
sorry,
question.
go ahead. Yeah. What, Debbie?
Link, that's what he's asking, is there a link on there for the new rules? I've had several people ask.
Yeah, you know what, I don't know. I'm cramming like you're cramming right now. I know that you can find them at Ohio Codes. So if you type in, you just Google it, Ohio Codes, be the first thing that comes up, and it is Ohio Administrative Code 3701-29. That is the law that you're responsible for. Yeah, Todd?
Up there, next to forms is rules.
Oh, yeah.
You click
Yep.
rules, it will ask you for the final, and if you click final, it will take you to, sewage will be on there.
Okay, let's see.
You have to print them out by chapter.
So it's 3701-29, so here we are. Let's see what we get.
That you can print
All right, so there you go. There's your better access, because the ones that are posted on Ohio rules that I told you about, it has the old and the new
That
right
does as
next
well.
to each other. This is
Well, the top has rescinded,
Okay.
and then if you
This-
scroll down, has all that.
Okay, Ohio rules is a little less formatted than this. I mean, they're right on top of each other. So, yeah, you can certainly go here and get those. This is what you're responsible for. When you get tested, that's what you're responsible for, and nothing else. And the way I understand it is there's, like, I think you were saying, there's a main general test, and there's 3 separate sections for, if you're a service provider, installer, or hauler, you'll take that section. If you're multiple, if you're all 3, you'll take all 3 sections. That's how they did it in 07 too. Yeah.
Who from your company does take the test then? I mean, is it who?
It should be the registrant.
Okay.
Should be the registrant. So typically that's the owner operator, but the person that signs their name on the registration form and is bonded, that's the guy. Yeah, not everybody at the company has to take the test. You probably all know that. If they're under your supervision and you're the owner operator and you're the registrant and they're under your supervision, you're the one, and then they don't all have to take those tests.
Hey Todd, what was that code number again?
Oh, it's OAC, Ohio Administrative Code.
And what number do you?
It's in fact, it's right there, Roger.
I can't.
3701-29.
Click on that red, and then each one of those has to be printed out as a separate line.
Yeah, there's a good bit there.
Somebody in our office did it, but we don't.
All right, and we'll get a little more into that. Yeah.
Is this test gotta be done so we can do septics next year, right?
Yes. Yep. I'm sorry, but yes.
Certain completion time we're looking for by the 31st of
Yeah, I mean,
January, or-
you if you want to continue without any problems, you would want to get all this resolved by the end of December. And then basically just submit all your paperwork in. You'll get some kind of certificate that you passed. You'll have your state bond, and we're going to get a couple other things that are required. But yeah, to re-register, I can't re-register anybody without all that information. All right, and we'll touch on a little more of this in a bit. Okay. Okay, again, I put this in here to make sure I told you about this, but this is the website. We already talked about that.